In Slavic folklore and mythology, Rusalka is a female entity that often holds malicious inclinations towards people and is predominantly associated with water. On the other hand, in Slavic paganism, they were seen as benevolent spirits that guided the hero. Rusalki were also believed to represent universal beauty, which made them feared and respected in the Slavic culture. According to some sources, Rusalki were the daughters of Veles. The Rusalki played an important role in the pagan fertility rituals, but more about that later in the video. The predecessors of Rusalki, known as Bjeregini, have in mind that Bjereg means shore, and they connected earth and water in their cult. The sacred tree of these spirits was the birch tree. Rusalki were believed to live in water or on land and trees. They were believed to be half women, half fish, or half women, half birds. Their connection to the sirens and harpies are apparent. If we look at them from a depth psychology standpoint, Rusalki represent the unconscious forces that are in a struggle to become conscious and integrated. Here we can see that the connection with the Jungian anima archetype is apparent. This analogy will become clearer as we uncover the myth behind these feminine entities. Their very roots were archaic, and HermesHub tells us the following. Every incarnation of the water nymph suggests the archaic image of the bird-headed transformational goddess who accompanies humanity from the period of the hunt to that of horticulture, herding, and warfare. She is the goddess who creates parthenogenetically by bringing moisture to the earth from below and above, unaided by male consorts. She is one yet multiple, chooses her mate like the shamanic mistress of animals, and confers power, military or otherwise, on the male, whom like the great goddess of the Neolithic she then destroys. She is virginal, like Artemis, and yet the giver of life and death. HermesHub also says that the Rusalki were known as spinners, who controlled human and animal fertility, the cycle of the seasons, the moon, and the weather. Before we continue, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you want more content like this. Your support is what makes the channel grow in quality.
When it comes to etymology, the term Rusalka is derived from the word Rusalia, which entered the Slavic language sphere via the Byzantine Greek word Rosalia, as a name for Pentecost and the days adjacent to it. This resulted in the pre-Christian traditions being associated with spirits which were named for the holiday. When it comes to mythology, according to Dmitry Zielenin, young women who either committed suicide by drowning due to an unhappy marriage, or who were violently drowned against their will, must live out their designated time on earth as the Rusalki. According to Slavic stories, the soul of a dead woman whose life ended near the lake or river would come back to haunt these waters. This undead Rusalka isn't purely evil, and would be allowed to die if her death was avenged. Her malevolent role was to lure young men by seducing them with her voice or looks. After they were seduced, the Rusalka would entangle their feet with her long hair and submerge them into the depths of water or the so-called unconscious. In some instances, it was mentioned that the Rusalka would tickle her prey to death as she laughed at it. On another account, the prey would die from being forced into a frenzied dance. It was even believed that the Rusalki possessed shape-shifting capabilities, allowing them to match the victim's taste. On the Rusalka week or the mermaid week, boys would try to put flowered wreaths on girls, and girls would try to tickle the said boys in the same way the Rusalka would to lure young men. According to Vladimir Prop, the original Rusalka was an epithet used by pagan Slavic peoples, who linked them with fertility and did not consider Rusalki evil before the 19th century. They came out of the water in the spring to transfer life-giving moisture to the fields and thus helped nurture the crops. Only does the Rusalka in the 19th century become an unquiet and dangerous entity that threatens the hero. This shift appeared as the humans walked the path to the so-called modern individual, who divorced himself from the archetypal backbone. Rusalki, thus repressed, are operating from the unconscious, and their denigration often results horribly for the individual. Animals that were connected to the Rusalki were the snake and the deer. As a goddess of the moon, rain and sun, Rusalka symbolized rebirth and renewal, as the snake sheds her skin and the deer sheds his antlers. It was believed that her hair was so entangled that it looked like snakes, and that by combing it, rain fell that was called the milk from heaven. The floods that appeared were believed to be products of combing that was overly energetic in nature. When it comes to their bird symbolism, it was believed that Rusalki rode on top of clouds to administer the rains that nourished the lands. They were also believed to have control over winds and moon phases. HermesHub tells us that the artifacts from the 12th and 13th century found around Kiev show that the Slavic beregini, like the Russian Rusalki, were emulated in their moisture-making functions by young girls, whirling in long-sleeved blouses, who played the part of rainmakers, bringers of fertility. The very name for girl in Russian Deva suggests linguistic ties with Indian and Persian religious and mythological figures of feminine divinity. Div or Deva in Sanskrit means light and pure.
In order to learn more about the rituals concerning the Rusalki, I'll read from the Mythology of All Races, Volume 3. Among the Slavs, the Rusalia are celebrated at the Whitsun holidays. The word itself is of foreign origin, and so are many ceremonies connected with the festival. Although numerous indigenous customs have been preserved side by side with these rites. In Russia, the Rusalia were celebrated in the following way. On Whitsun Monday, a small shed adorned with garlands, flowers, and fragrant grasses were erected in the center of an oak grove. A straw or wooden doll, arrayed in holiday garments, was placed inside, and people assembled from all quarters, bringing food and drink, dancing round the shed, and giving themselves up to merriment. In the great Russian governments, people leave the towns and villages for the forests on the Thursday preceding Whitsunday, Semik, singing ancient songs and picking flowers, which they make into wreaths. Then the lads fell a nice young birch tree, which the lasses dress in women's robes, trimming it with gay-colored ribbons and gaudy pieces of cloth. As they carry this tree along, they sing festive songs. And then follows a dinner of flour, milk, eggs, and other provisions brought for the occasion, while wine and beer are purchased by voluntary contributions. After dinner, they take the birch, and singing merry songs, they carry it in procession to the village, where they put it down in a house chosen for the purpose, leaving it there till Sunday. The doll which, in the course of these ceremonies, is finally thrown into the water or burned, is usually called Rusalka, and the ceremony itself is probably meant as a second funeral, i.e. to secure the favor of the Rusalki, the spirits of those who, dying in violent death, have not been buried with religious rites. However, not all Rusalki were the same. It was believed that, if the land was fertile, the Rusalki would appear beautiful and naked. Russians believed that the Rusalki would come out of the water on the Kupala night and participate in the festive atmosphere without bringing harm. In Polish folklore, they were young and fair-haired women, while the forest ones were more mature and black-haired. It was believed that, if inspected closely enough, their hair would turn green, and the face would distort itself. Let's conclude this video with a poem from Alexander Pushkin called Rusalka. She shook the bright drops from her hair, and gazed upon the anchorite. To look upon her form so fair, the good monk trembled with affright, and he beheld her from afar, with head and hand strange signals make. Then swifter than a shooting star, dive back into the silent lake. That is it for today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for building Olympus.